Hey, happy Sunday. It's May the 9th, I believe. Yeah, May the 9th, 2021. Starting to look at maybe getting into a Ethereum trade this morning. So I wanted to talk through what I'm looking at and see if any of that analysis, which is something I'm still learning to do. If you've not watched my first video, it's worth checking that out. I'll link to it. If you've come across this video, I'm not going to go into the major details of the tools that I'm using. I'll just say that I've got TradingView pulled up and I use a indicator called MarketCypher. I will link to those in the notes below so that you can get to them very easily. They are referral links as well, so if you end up signing up, I'll get a little something something for that. So I would appreciate it. Otherwise, what I want to talk through is what I'm looking at and what my possible strategy is for today while I'm trading. And I'll get that posted as quickly as I can. Try not to spend too much production time on these videos so that I can get them out pretty quickly. So what you're seeing on the 15-minute chart is where I usually start. We got a green dot on the momentum wave. We are below the line. Also on the Wolfpack indicator at the bottom here, the green, this little line is starting to come above the zero line and it's green. The only other thing I really like to see, and I may go ahead and get into a trade because the 15-minute chart, it's a good starting point. Don't make solid decisions on the 15-minute chart. It's just a good first indicator. The other thing I like to see is this EMA indicator up here. I'd like to see it start to turn light gray. And then also the money flow is red, but that could flip to green fairly soon. I have gotten into trades before when it is in the red, and if these candles are starting to turn green and move up. So this might be a good quick trade to get into. Depending on the other time frames that I'm looking at, I also got a green dot on the 24-minute, which that starts to further confirm that it may be a good entry point to go on a possible long on what I'm trading, which again is Ethereum. I got into a trade last night, and I won't go over the analysis of that. I definitely FOMO'd in because it was reaching close to $4,000 mark, which would have been a new all-time high. We did reach an all-time high last night. I think some exchanges reported around 39.80. So we were about $20 shy of $4,000 mark. So I wanted to kind of be in a trade for those historical moments, and sometimes my emotions get the best of me. Long story short, I lost the trade last night. Lost a couple $100. Wasn't too big of a deal. You always hate losing money, but anyway, that's I like to share the wins and the losses so that maybe you guys can learn from my mistakes as well. Definitely getting in on a all-time high like that has its benefits, but more often than not, you tend to lose getting in at the top like that. So I lost, no big deal. We'll live to fight another day. So anyway, back to the chart on the 24-minute. Looks like we've got a really nice green dot and our momentum wave is trending up. Now, the thing I like about the 24-minute versus the 15 is we do see some really good money flow. The green area here above the zero line, which is great to see. I'd really like to see this Wolfpack indicator reach above the zero line, which we're really close to. We're just now on the at the top of the 24-minute. So we've got about 20 minutes left before this candle is completely printed. It may flip green. We'll just have to see. And then on the 1 hour is where I like to look next. Now we're still somewhat trending, down, but what I do see is the same Wolfpack indicator at the bottom is starting to trend up. We still have really good money flow as well. So for a shorter term trade for myself, which is what I like to do, I don't like to be in a trade all day long unless it just I get in at the right moment. I'll go and look at the 4 hour. Let's reset this here so we can kind of see it a little bit better. Yeah, so I'm going to look at the 4 hour and zoom in on these candles a little bit better. You can see on the 4 hour chart, we're actually at the very top of a momentum wave, and we've got a red dot, and our Wolfpack indicator is trending down. Now, that doesn't mean over a 4 hour time frame that it's going to continue down. If you notice, if you kind of go back in time here around this guy, we trended down and we didn't go below the 0 line. Ethereum has just been on a complete run and we haven't had a lot of really low pullbacks below the line. We did way back here around April, but on the 4 hour we've stayed well above this 0 line. So this little momentum wave here, I'm hoping what's going to happen is it'll trend down a little bit, maybe even get below this top line here, and then we'll hopefully print a green dot and trend back up. So hopefully Sunday's looking really good. It's usually pretty slow up until when some of the markets start opening. For my time zone, that's usually around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening or so. We'll see traditional markets start to open up. So the price of cryptocurrency is affected by what the market does when it opens. So sometimes getting into a long trade on Sunday is a bad idea, because if the markets react negatively, then you could be stuck in a trade for a couple of days, or you might lose the trade altogether depending on what happens. But so that's definitely on Sundays I try to get into kind of a shorter trade before the markets open if I see a good opportunity. So we're going to keep an eye on it and go from there. So I'll continue to update this video a little bit on what I'm thinking. I may get in a trade, I may not. If I do, I'll report that. We'll show the win or the loss and go from there. One thing you guys should check out, if you've not watched the other video, watch that. I go over all the tools and the resources I use for trading. These are tools that I've personally found useful. You may not find them useful for your strategy, but check them out anyways. I trade on Bybit is where I'm going to do my trading. So check that out. I'll have a link for that. This is kind of the time of the video where I'm pitching a little bit, but they're good tools. I wouldn't use them if they weren't. So check that out while you're kind of watching and learning along with me. Come up with your own strategy. Don't follow me as far as exactly what I do. You may find, based on how you want to trade, things will work a little bit differently. So depending on if you want to do, little quick trades or longer trades, or if you're not doing leverage trading like I am, then your strategy is going to be completely different. MarketCypher is awesome regardless, so definitely check out MarketCypher. That is the indicator that I use for these videos when I'm talking about these momentum waves and these green dots. That is MarketCypher. So check out MarketCypher. and let me know if you got any questions. So anyway, we'll keep you updated here, and I'm gonna sign off for a minute, see what I'm gonna do, and if I execute a trade, I'll kind of go through that. So I did execute a trade not long after I paused the video recording. What you're seeing here is Bybit, the trading platform that I use, and anyway, usually right after I get into a trade, more often than not, it goes into the red a little bit. That's just because right around that mark is when it's kind of fluctuating a little bit and trying to decide which direction it's going to go. Trade looks kind of bad right now. I don't know if it's going to continue down. The red candle is always scary to see on the 15-minute. Also, the volume, I always take a look at that on Bybit to kind of see if there's more selling going on than buying. Some of the other reasons I decided to execute the trade is there's been a couple of good momentum candles, volume wise going up here. And then these EMA ribbons tend to give me a good indication if they cross that it's going to continue in the uptrend, and it looks like they're getting closer and closer. So we might be down a little bit, and it might kind of play in this this price range that it's in right now. So we'll keep an eye on that. The other reason I went ahead and executed a trade is there is a YouTube channel that I watch quite a bit, and I'll just keep it up during the day. It seems fairly accurate. And it's on about a 30-second delay, roughly. So if you use this, just use it as confirmation. I wouldn't necessarily follow it to the T. So I'll show what that is, but it's basically Ethereum and Bitcoin signals. And this individual has created a script that he runs 24/7, and this is a live feed. And he's basically using MarketCypher along with his own script to show these buy and sell signals. And if you go and you watch this, the buy and sell signals are on the 15-minute chart. Not the most reliable, but they're fairly accurate. I've noticed a few instances where they're not, and no algorithm is perfect. All you want is more accuracy than no accuracy. So like I said, I use this to validate what I'm looking at on my own charts. So you might check that out. Just search for Ethereum Live, and you'll find Ethereum Bitcoin Signals. And here is the account. I'll link to this individual's YouTube channel for you all as well, so that you can check it out. Ignore the chat. There's never really any good information in there. It's usually a bunch of people giving somewhat bad advice, quite honestly. Stick to watching the charts. Every now, if you want some entertainment, I guess it's worth reading the chat. So anyway, some funny guys in there, but for the most part, you have a lot of new traders that are in there either giving bad advice or making jokes that people just make bad decisions by reading some of these things. So I'll just give that word of warning. Chat is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take anyone's advice in the chat. Just do your own analysis. Even listening to me, do your own analysis. So anyway, I wanted to share that, and let's kind of check on our chart while we're talking, since I'm actually in a trade. So I'll usually keep an eye on it pretty heavily. So I'm on the 1 hour chart. It looks like we might start to print a green candle on the 1 hour, so that's looking good. We may get us a green dot, pretty soon. on the momentum wave for the 1 hour. So I'm hoping for that. And I'd really love to see this Wolfpack indicator trend upward. So we may be in the red or close to the red, as far as down in our trade until this 1 hour does something positive. So hopefully we'll continue on the buying streak. I think Ethereum dropped pretty hard last night when I lost that trade. So hopefully everyone's feeling confident that they can buy at a little bit of a dip, so that we can continue to hopefully shoot past $4,000 today. I'd love to see that, but we might just there's a pretty heavy sell wall at the $4,000 price tag, so it may be kind of tough to break through that for a day or two. But we'll see. Regardless, my plan is to watch, if now that I'm in the trade, get it as close to $4,000 as possible to get out of the trade. If I see that it's gonna dip back down again, I'll probably sell and then get back in at another dip. Is probably that's my trading style. Some people like to wait for it to dip a few times. I've been kind of burned doing that. Like I said, I don't like to trade very long. So the 1 hour is looking good. The 4 hour was more or less trending down, but I'm not too worried about that if I'm only going to be in the trade for about an hour or so. So we'll see. Sometimes these 4 hour charts can turn around and stay pretty high. So we'll just keep an eye on that. Let's kind of go back here and look. So it looks like we're up since I started recording this, but that can change pretty quickly. Sometimes I'll be up 1% or so, and then it'll dip back down. So, now that we're on a new iteration of the 15-minute, you can notice that this volume down here, I just try to keep an eye on. Hopefully it'll stay green and it'll start going up. And then I'll usually check the 1 hour on the volume. Right now it's red. Hopefully that'll flip to green. And then the 4 hours typically, 1 and 4 hours are typically the same. So it looks like we're still kind of red on the volume, but hopefully that'll turn around. And we'll just kind of keep an eye on it and go from there. As you can see, it's just kind of toying around that price range. My entry point was actually at around 38.20. So, as long as we go up from 38.20, this should turn out fairly well. Even if I only take, a very small profit's profit. So just try to think of it that way. Don't get greedy. If you see a good exit before it drops, that's the key. So anyway, we'll keep this video updated and go from there. All right. So small update. Trade seems to be going pretty good. Starting to move up, get some good volume on the 15-minute. About 2.3% up. I'm at 5x leverage this time because I felt pretty good about getting in at that, and just a little somewhat of a tip to minimize your risk. And there's YouTube videos on this. If you do get into leverage trading and you don't quite understand how leverage works and margin, where I made the most mistakes was trading on too high of a leverage. 5 is about the highest I go these days. I usually start out even at just 2x. And then I never go all in. So I'm trading with about 50% of the Ethereum that I've accumulated on 5x leverage. So that means that my position in the trade is pretty good. The quantity that I'm trading with is around 40,000, which is really good. That's why you see these profits at just 1% or a 2% gain are a couple $100. But anyway, the point I wanted to get at is if this started to drop and I was wanting to stay in the trade longer, and let's say we start reaching, this does happen and has happened to me on higher leverage. The liquidation price is what you need to really be comfortable with. And you need to get out of the trade before it even gets close to that. But if you need to lower your margin and your strategy for your trade is to stay in a lot longer, and you want to make sure that you don't reach this 32.10 in this example, you can actually change your leverage during the trade as long as you have more funds or Ethereum, in my case, that are in your available balance. Because what it's going to do is it's going to remove, you can basically move this slider down to say 2x leverage, and what that's going to do is use more of your own funds out of your account, and it's going to take away the margin of the funds that you are borrowing on that leverage trade. So your percentage gains are still going to be the same as long as you have enough funds in your available balance to offset that margin that you borrowed. The other great thing about that is it's going to lower your liquidation price significantly so that you don't have to worry about getting liquidated quite as soon. So just a little tip that I wanted to point out while we're kind of watching this trade. So while I'm in an active trade, the things I do to make sure that I feel like I don't want to exit yet is I'll flip back over to the 4-hour. First I'll look at the 1 hour, and it looks like we're starting to be pretty green on the volume. And then if I go and look at the 4-hour, we're not quite green yet, but that's okay. I'm on a shorter term time frame, so I really try to pay attention to how long I want to be in the trade and which time frames are still looking good to me. If the 1 hour was to flip back to red, I would really start paying attention to whether I wanted to go ahead and exit or not. The other things I start to pay way more attention to are these momentum waves. On the 1 hour, we don't quite have a green dot yet. I'm hoping that we do. That will signal to me that I can stay in a little bit longer and see if I can ride that trend up a little bit more and just squeeze a little more profit out before I start thinking about exiting. I usually try to trade on the 1 to 2 hour time frame versus a half a day, because I just don't want to sit here all day and trade, because it's not my full-time job. So I'll look at the 1 hour, see how it's doing. Still looks like we're kind of trending up here, and then I'll kind of go back and look at the 24-minute. Looks like we're starting to cross the on the Wolfpack indicator, that 0 line that I like to see. Still have a green dot. There's no red dot being printed. Money flow looks good. So then I kind of flip back and forth between Bybit, looking at those. Even though I'm starting to see some red here on the 1 hour, we'll still kind of pay attention, because I don't know that this is actually trending negatively yet. That's where I usually start looking at MarketCypher more heavily than the actual exchange that I'm trading on. This always makes me feel a little bit nervous, but that's where you kind of got to stick to your plan and your indicators and trust them. We may go back down into the red here for a little bit. But hopefully we'll continue on this uptrend. If we kind of go back and look at the 30-minute and the 15-minute, yeah, we're starting to get a little bit red here. So I don't want to exit just yet, because MarketCypher is still telling me, that we're kind of still in a good spot. I really wish this money flow was green, and the Wolfpack indicator might be turning back toward a negative direction. We are in kind of this consolidation phase on a Sunday. That's where Sundays are a little bit tricky to trade. So not sure if this is going to head back down. If I get the feeling that we're just going to kind of dip a little bit before we head back up, then I may stay in the trade. Hopefully this isn't a losing trade, because I was, you saw earlier when I turned the video recording back on, I was actually in a pretty good profit of, close to $200. But, the strategy is to get between, $200 to $300 profit, and then start thinking about exiting. I was kind of hoping that it would, keep going that direction, and it may still. So I'm going to keep an eye on it and jump back in and record what's happening as I make those decisions and go from there. I really want to show whether I win or lose this trade. I really want to show that so that you guys can benefit from my analysis, and even if I make a mistake, because not every trade is going to be a winning trade. Sometimes I lose a couple in a row before I start winning them again. But like I said, Sundays are a little bit tricky, so we'll check back in here in a little bit. All right, small little update here. It seems to be kind of building volume, but it seems like we're kind of petering out on this. If we're above this this line, which is around 38.60, then it acts as support. But right now, it's acting as kind of some resistance. What I was noticing is we kind of keep playing between 2 and 3%. Really, I'd like to get to around 5%, and if it keeps going and it has some good momentum, I may stay in the trade, but I'd love to stay in this trade till at least 5%. So looks like it's gonna maybe start taking off a little bit. But one thing I was noticing, because I was getting a little bit nervous that maybe it would drop back down and I wouldn't be able to take as much profit, and it might still happen. One thing I was noticing on the 15-minute chart, so we have 2 green dots and a red dot, right? So if we go back in time, you'll notice kind of a pattern, more often than not, there's 2 green dots, and then we'll trend up above the 0 line. Sometimes we may not get a really good pump, but we at least, after 2, will trend up above the 0 line here. There's only been like a couple of occasions, if you keep going back. I found one instance on the 21st where we had 3 green dots before it really took off and went up. So what happened there was we had this X and a couple of diamonds print out above the candles. But as you can see, as soon as it tested that support line again, it trended back up. So really, when you're using a tool like MarketCypher, the best thing you can do is kind of zoom out a little bit or go back in history and look at the trend of how the particular stock or crypto that you're trading behaves on a particular time frame. That might give you some more confidence instead of an emotional reaction. And I was kind of thinking, I need to get out of this trade soon. I'm in profit. I could lose that. And like I said, I very well still could. But if history is an indication, I think this time frame has a little more in it. So I was hoping to stay in for maybe another 30 minutes to an hour to see what it's going to do. So that's how I'm thinking about it right now. So we'll see. So not long after my last analysis, I noticed that things started trending up. And sure enough, Seems like we're following a pretty good pattern on the momentum wave on the 15 minute. We're just now reaching above the zero line. Also, I keep watch over this this live feed as well on YouTube, and looks like, you know, I'm seeing the same thing on this 15-minute chart as well. On top of that, if you go look at Bybit, then the volume is staying green. Got a really nice green candle, and we got above 5%, which I said if I see a lot of momentum, then it's worth staying in a little bit longer, and that seems like we may trend up. I'm actually hoping we get back above 3,900. We'll just continue to monitor and see if we get right around that 3,900 mark. That might be a psychological level that some people start taking profits on. I'm really hoping there's enough momentum that everyone's wanting to see a $4,000 Ethereum. So maybe we'll get there, you know, early today. I don't know. But I'll just kind of keep you posted on how this trade is going so that you can really, the whole goal of recording these is obviously I'm putting them out after the fact. I'm going to start doing live streams, I think. So I'm just waiting for my YouTube account to approve me to be able to do that. Once I do, I'd love to do these in real time, you know, just for the fun of it. But for now, what we're going to see is, you know, how much we can make on this trade. If I exited right now, then I will more than make up for my loss that I had yesterday by a couple $100. So I'd like to see if we can, you know, for me in my trade, I'd love to see if I could at least hit that 10% profit margin on it. So that's kind of my strategy right now, is if I get to 10%, I'm going to start looking to take profits. Unless I start seeing it trend back down, then I'm going to try to take profits before it gets below 5%. Is really my strategy at this point. Don't want to get too greedy, because you get greedy, then you'll lose all the profits that you've made, and then you just have to start all over again. So let's continue to monitor and see how this thing goes. So a couple of things I'm seeing which are really positive right now, and it always makes me more overly anxious when I see things trending up, just as much as I get overly anxious when I see them trending down. But that's where you've got to start learning, and I'm trying to start learning how to rely on the indicators and the strategy that you have for the trade that you're in. So what I noticed is on the 24-minute, we're starting to look even better with the Wolfpack indicator here at the bottom trending upward. And then on the 1 hour, we finally got a green dot. So that's positive. Now, like I said before, green dots don't mean that it's not going to go negative. But again, if you kind of go back and look at history, more often than not, that's all it takes on the 1 hour is one green dot. Every now and then we'll get a red, and then we'll head back down. But if you notice the level at which we get a green dot, that's something else that you can kind of look back at, you know, even at a smaller level, and we don't touch this zero, this line down here. We're closer to this zero line right now. The way the momentum is on Ethereum, we're noticing these small dips before it trends back up. So it could be a safe indication that we're going to trend upward for a little while longer, especially with some of the momentum that we had yesterday reaching that $4,000 mark. I'm hoping that this is a indication on the 1 hour that we're at least headed for, you know, to retest that 39.60 to 39.80 price point, we might see enough momentum to break through that. But for now, we're still on an upward trend. And even on the 2 hour, no green dot yet, but the Wolfpack indicators showing some upward momentum on the 2 hour. And then on the 4 hour time frame, we did start trending down, but I'm starting to see the Wolfpack indicator to kind of level off. So we might see it turn as well. We might get another little hump here in the and get a green dot on this upward momentum wave. So long story short, the 4 hour time frame may not trend downward for too much longer. And we do have a green candle still, but obviously we've got about, almost 4 hours to go on the 4 hour candle. So I'm definitely only going to be in this trade for maybe another 30 to 45 minutes because I've got things to do and I'm not going to sit here all day. I'm in a pretty good profit right now on the trade. So just looking at that, you can notice we're at like 15%, which this is probably the most I've ever gotten on a single trade. So I'm probably going to start taking profits here pretty quickly, just so that we can feel good about where we're at. And I'll move my stop losses up in case it does all of a sudden spike back down. So going to do that, and then I'll hop back on and kind of review what ends up happening. Well, I made a mistake, and it was luckily it was an okay mistake, but it also kind of sucks. So right after I decided to watch it a little bit longer, I was going to ride things and put a stop loss. So this was a mistake with me using the tool appropriately. So what you can do if you're in an active trade, in order to set a stop loss, the way I typically like to do it is you can do what's called a limit sell. So I was going to set my limit sell to around 39.25. And that way, if it did drop dramatically below that, I would at least get a pretty good profit of selling everything. Whatever the case may be, when I clicked limit sell, the price that I was choosing to sell at was actually the price at the time of Ethereum, which was, if you look at my filled orders here, I actually sold my entire trade at 39.54. So not a bad thing. I actually made a really good return, about 15% on the trade that I had going. It is the most profit that I've taken all at once since I've been doing this. So I wish I could have stayed in to see if this was going to rise up to 4,000. I am not going to make the mistake that I've made in the past of like FOMOing back in other words, fear of missing out on some extra little profit, because every time I've done that, I've typically not made enough to make it worth it, or I've lost. So the good news about the trade today is I made profit. I actually made up for my loss that I had last night. I lost about $300 last night. Profit on this trade was around $1,000. So I made up for the loss and I made some gains. So, if I go look at my Ethereum wallet now, I should be back in a really good position. So what I'm going to do now is look for another trade for later today. I've got some errands to run and things to do. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. And like I said, on these videos, I plan on sharing my ups and downs, my highs and lows, and my analysis. And even when I make a mistake in the positive direction as well, that's more about, you know, lesson learned. Know the tools that you're using for trading and make sure you double check. You know, it's kind of the old adage of, you know, I grew up in a construction family, and it's like when you're measuring something, measure twice and cut once. So sometimes I get those stop losses in place as quickly as I can, and I don't double check myself because I've actually missed out on getting out of a trade in time. So it looks like to me that we're going to see the momentum of Ethereum continue today. We may hit $4,000. I really wish I could have stayed in to be part of that. But what I'm going to do is just kind of keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll trend back down and I'll have an opportunity to get back in before that happens. But it sure does look like that we're going to stay on a steady uptrend for the rest of the day. So I may not find another position today, but positive. Had a really good trade. Came away with quite a bit of profit. So yeah, it's like I won the race, but I feel like I stumped my toe, and that just pisses you off, you know. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope this video is beneficial. Please give me some comments. I'd love to know if this is valuable to you guys. And like I said, in the future, I'm planning on maybe doing live streaming of these trades, and you know, you guys can follow along in real time. So anyway, keep an eye on that. You know, keep an eye on my channel. Do what you got to do to get notifications if you do find this beneficial. So anyway, have a great rest of your day, and hope to see you guys again soon.